They were known as the Shining Girls, but the glow that made them sparkle in the dark was slowly, silently killing them. It began in the early 1910s. Across America, especially in places like Orange, New Jersey, and Ottawa, Illinois, young women, some as young as 14, were hired to paint numbers onto watch dials using a luminous paint that contained radium. It was marketed as safe, even healthy. The paint made the dials glow in the dark, something considered cutting edge at the time. The job paid well, and for many working-class families, it was a golden opportunity. Girls were taught to lip-point their brushes, shaping the tip with their mouths to get a fine edge, over and over again, day after day. They were told it was perfectly safe. Radium had been discovered in 1898 by Marie and Pierre Curie, who later won Nobel Prizes for their work. By the 1910s, radium was being added to toothpaste, face creams, chocolates, and even drinking water. It was sold as a miracle cure for everything from arthritis to impotence. But the truth was darker. Henri Becquerel's discovery. Before the Curies, there was Henri Becquerel, the man who first discovered radioactivity. He laid the groundwork, noticing how certain materials could expose photographic plates in the dark. The Curies picked up where he left off, isolating radium and polonium, unaware of the deadly consequences. By 1917, United States Radium Corporation, USRC, and Radium Dial were booming. These factories employed hundreds of girls to paint military and civilian watch faces, especially during World War I. The girls would come home glowing, literally. Radium dust clung to their hair, skin, clothes, and teeth. They were considered fashionable. Men even flirted with them because of their shine. But beneath the glow, the decay had begun. The symptoms. Grace Fryer, a dial painter, began experiencing pain in her jaw around 1922. Her teeth fell out. Her jawbone crumbled when doctors touched it. Eventually, her spine collapsed, and she was fitted with a steel back brace. She was just 18 when she started at the factory. Others followed. Catherine Schaub, a cousin of Grace, also developed jaw necrosis and anemia. Albina Larice, one of 5 sisters who worked at the plant, suffered devastating facial disfigurement. Edna Hussman and Quinta MacDonald experienced similar fates: anemia, bone fractures, decaying jaws, and in some cases, holes appearing in their skulls. Many were told it was syphilis, an intentional smear used by the company to deflect blame and destroy their credibility. The truth surfaces. Internal documents and testimony revealed the companies knew about the dangers of radium. USRC's own chemists worked behind lead shields and used tongs to handle radium. The women, by contrast, were told it was safe enough to ingest. Despite this knowledge, warnings were ignored and evidence suppressed. It took years before anyone would listen. Grace Fryer's fight. Grace Fryer refused to be silenced. She spent 2 years trying to find a lawyer willing to take the case. Most refused, fearing the financial power of USRC. But in 1927, she found Raymond Berry, a young but courageous attorney. Berry filed a lawsuit on behalf of 5 women: Grace Fryer, Catherine Schaub, Edna Hussman, Quinta MacDonald, and Albina Larice. They were dying, and they were up against one of the most powerful chemical companies in the country. USRC brought in heavyweight attorneys. They delayed and dragged out the case, hoping the girls would die before reaching court. But the judge, Judge William Clark, saw through it. He postponed a ruling to allow for a settlement, but in doing so, created pressure on the company. Public opinion exploded after the media dubbed them the Radium Girls. Sympathy poured in. The image of glowing women dying in agony struck a chord across the country. The settlement. In July 1928, USRC settled. Each woman received $10,000, equivalent to about £150,000 today, an annual payment of $600 for life, around £9,000 today, and all medical expenses covered. It wasn't justice, but it was recognition. The legacy. Thanks to the Radium Girls, workers' rights laws were rewritten. Employers could now be held responsible for workplace safety. It was one of the first major victories for occupational disease lawsuits. It influenced the creation of OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, decades later. Most importantly, the case forced regulators to acknowledge that radiation, even in small doses, could be fatal. What of the scientists? Marie Curie died in 1934 of aplastic anemia, likely due to long-term radiation exposure. Her notebooks remain radioactive to this day. Though she may not have fully understood the risks, records show she began wearing some protection later in her career. Yet no documented evidence exists that she ever warned the factories or the girls. The companies, on the other hand, absolutely knew. Their scientists handled radium with care, while the girls unknowingly swallowed it daily. Final thought, they weren't just dial painters. They were pioneers, unknowing victims who stood up, spoke out, and changed history. They glowed at night, but they were dying every day. What do you think should have been done differently to protect these women? How do you feel about the corporations that knowingly put workers at risk for profit? What do you think is the lasting impact of the Radium Girls case on workplace safety laws? If you were in their position, would you have fought back? Why or why not? How should we hold companies accountable when their negligence causes harm to workers? Leave your comments down below.